Hi, welcome back to VMAX Motors. So today, as you can see, we're going to be back on the BMW 523 Touring. If you recall in the last video we made on this E61, I went through a whole list of problems that we have with it. The worst one being the fact that it needs a cylinder head, which is causing it to not start. So a couple of weeks have passed now. We've got a replacement cylinder head, we've got some parts, got some gaskets, got some tools. So we're ready to do the job. But before we start, let me show you what we've got. So, as you can see there, it's been nicely skimmed. So the head was sent to Classic and Modern Engine Services. Naturally done it at what I think is quite a fair price. I'll disclose the price of everything at the end. But yeah, so this is ready to be fitted now, I think. In addition to a head, we obviously need some other parts, don't we? So if we empty the box here, so we've got head bolts, Ferry Bilstein and Erling, really, for most of the parts. Both I've used before. Good quality aftermarket parts. So firstly, head bolts. Obviously they're going to be changed. These are, let me see if I can get one out. These are the cam cover bolts. So this just happens to be one of the 3 center ones. So we've got new ones of those. So they're stretch bolts, so you need to change them if you take that cam cover off. We've also got new timing chain. Again, we're going to do a head. Let's do it properly. Let's do a timing chain too. So again, this come as a kit. So you've got your guides, your actual chain is in there, and your tensioner comes with it. So all in all, that's quite good. Cam cover gasket, and here's the main one, the big one, head gasket. So all the gaskets, all the bolts, timing chain kit. I think we're nearly ready. Although there is one more very important thing we will need, and that last remaining thing is this. This should be the locking tool to lock the engine. So we're going to need this for the timing chain. As we want to lock the cams, don't we? So this kit, got this on eBay. Not too bad, about £75. But yeah, it's good for a couple of different engines. N52, which is what we've got. I don't know if that's showing up on the camera. So yeah, we've got our head, got our gaskets, got our bolts, got our timing chain, and got our locking kit. So once you've disconnected the battery, next thing you want to do is take off the under tray, because we're going to be draining some fluids. So now I've got the under tray off, I want to drain the coolant. Although I have noticed another thing to add to the list. It looks like possibly the sump gasket's leaking. So there's a lot of engine oil along the bottom of the sump. I mean, there's some over there, which is pretty bad. But it seems to be, don't seem to be above the sump. It seems to be at the lowest point and underneath the sump. So I'm gonna guess. Oh, I can't really see from there. So I'm gonna guess it needs a sump gasket, which may need to drop the subframe. So that'll be a pretty rubbish job, I think. So you want to drain the coolant from the lowest point. So I'd say that is the lowest coolant hose we have. So it looks like it's just a little. So it looks like it's just a little securing clip. Pop that off, and you should be able to get all the coolant out. And that is not even looking like coolant, is it? I kid you not, this is the coolant that we've just taken out of this 523. Look at that. It literally looks like pond water, or river water even. What the hell is that even doing? So, coolant drained. Most of it ended up in a bucket. Clearly not all of it. So, something that might be worth mentioning, got your two connectors. Can you see that? Two connectors here at the front for your 1 and 2 for your Vanos solenoids. So disconnect those two. So you don't connect them back the wrong way round, it might be worth marking them. So you can see that there's a right angle on this one here and there's not here. But just for peace of mind, what I like to do is, rather than trying to write 1, 2 or label things, remembering how you labelled them, what I do is put a dot on the connector and a dot on the plug. And then on the other one, I'll stick 2 and then 2. So next, I think it's worth taking off the airbox. So take the airbox out, and that should hopefully give us a bit more room around here, so we can, one, get the locking pin in, because I think the location to stick the locking pin, which will lock the crankshaft, is down this side of the engine, I think. So I think if we take this out, it needs to come off anyway, as it's part of the head, so it's going to be a lot easier taking the head out without this fitted. So next is the connecting pipe between the airbox and the throttle body. There's a couple of connectors, but it's all very obvious and very easy to get to. Next, you've got this module underneath. So this is how I found this. So there's just more and more evidence to suggest that someone has done something with this head before, I think. The car's just a mess, to be honest. So we've got this. So you've got this device here. I'm not sure where that goes. I mean, the car was running okay. I mean, I use that term loosely. It was running okay, other than the eccentric shaft issue, which leads us onto the cylinder head. But this obviously isn't how it's meant to be fitted, and over time you're going to probably have wear to this pipe here, and you're going to have a failure, and it's going to be a pain to try and fix it later on. So I'm going to have to work out where that's meant to connect to safely, correctly, and do that. And same for this module. So this module, I think it's in the right place. So I think it connects onto these two prongs here. It wasn't, it was just sitting here like this. I just never understand people that spend the time to do a job on a car, especially a big job or a very time consuming, expensive job, and just don't do simple things like put these components back where they're meant to be. It's just so incredibly frustrating. Anyway, I digress. So you've got 4 bolts for the throttle body. Again, they're very easy to access once you've got the airbox out. A couple of connectors. You've got the fuel pipe here, goes over to the injector rail. So just disconnect that bracket there. And then I think we're ready to take off the inlet manifold. So there's a few bolts along the top, so we'll start with them and see where we end up. So making sure that everything is disconnected down here, I think so. A couple just hoses back there and a clip, just remove them. Take out these bolts. So it's a mixture of, they're all 11mm, so it's a mixture of nuts and bolts. There's 6, 7, I think. Just along the top, take them out and this should come out quite easily. So the thing that was preventing me from taking the intake manifold off was, I'll try and show you from here. So it was this pipe here, right? So it's sort of behind this module. The same module, I think it's a junction box, but that pipe was awful. But it has 2 ridged parts, one this side, one on the other side, so you just squeeze them in, pull it up. It was really stiff, it was really stuck on there, but essentially you just squeeze it on either side and pull it up and it should come off. So turns out there's 2 connectors left. Try and show you in there.
for some reason it's plugged in underneath the starter, so can't lift it out, so that's gonna have to be disconnected, as the one at the bottom is as well. The top one seems to be connected to another part of the intake manifold, but because someone's plugged it in underneath the starter motor, I'm gonna have to unplug that and then unplug the one below it, and it should come out. One more connector at the back, which again has surely been connected in the wrong way, because it's illogical to have to disconnect this to remove this.
So the issue I was having was that the starter motor feed from the jumper post was going through these connectors. So to get out, I had to remove these two. So even though it's fitted to the same device, the same component, the same unit, it couldn't just lift it out, which I was expecting. So I had to remove them out of the way. That top one, I just couldn't get the connector out, so I had to disconnect the feed and feed it back. Pardon the pun. Feed it back through that connector, pull it out, disconnect those two, and then it could come out. But what I'm going to do now is reconnect them so they don't get forgotten when it goes back together. Now we've got all this space. You can see the head. It's looking a little bit oily there. A bit oily up there as well, to be honest. Not entirely, somewhat dry. I'm wondering if it's worth changing a starter motor while I'm here. I might see, and if it's affordable, I might change that as well. I'm going to get seals for the intakes. So for the intake manifold, so I'll replace them. I don't expect they would be too much. Starter motor, I'm going to think about changing the starter motor. Let's see if we can get one at a decent price. It's just while I'm here, might be worth putting that back, putting a new one on. So this is interesting. If you look down there, behind here, it looks like they've previously left a timing tool, or the locking pin to be precise, in the gearbox. So that should go in there. I believe that's the right spot. So that should go in there, lock the flywheel, and that will lock the bottom end of the engine. And then using your locking tools, you then lock the top, and the engine should stay timed when you're changing the chain. But that looks like a locking pin, and that looks like it's still in there, which definitely wasn't from me. But I don't know how that could be in there and the engine could run. I mean, I drove it home when I bought it, so I'm wondering if it's been fitted and someone started the engine and maybe the flywheel was strong enough to snap it off, or snap the other end off. Also, why is there silicone around it? Let me have a look. So the locking pin, you can see it's loose. It goes backwards and forwards slightly, and it goes up and down. It will not come out for the life of me. I've tried to have get a lever bar in there, levered it, it really won't come out. So I've wondered exactly why that's stuck in there. And what I've realised is somebody has done this head before. I'm sure somebody has done this head. They've started the engine and left that locking pin in. And what I think's happened is the flywheel has bent the locking pin out of the way, so the car will drive. But also, because the locking pin's now bent, you can't get the locking pin out. If you want to get the locking pin out, I think I'm going to have to take the gearbox off and get it out from the inside, punch it back through this side, or straighten it, or cut it off on the other side, or on the inside. But like I say, that means I'm going to have to take the gearbox off to lock the engine, to then do the cylinder head and timing chain. So if cylinder head and timing chain weren't a big enough job on a car like this, now I need to get the gearbox out. So I've realised I don't think it's really economically viable for me to get this running again. I got it quite cheap, wanted to use it as a daily and also as a bit of a workhorse, collecting car parts and whatever. And thought I got a good deal, thought a couple £100 and I'll have a nice car. But unfortunately, it's just not worth it. I paid £2,000 for the car and I thought that was quite a fair deal at the time. I thought for £2,000 plus maybe a couple hundred just to tidy it up, it would be quite a good deal. But after buying the cylinder head, paying to get it skimmed, tested, time and chain kit, engine locking tool, plus all the other parts which I originally thought was wrong with the car, I just don't think it's worth it. I think it's one of those ones where I have to cut my losses. It's going to take me too long to get this car running, and to be quite honest, I've already spent so much time diagnosing the fault, trying to fix it, trying to repair the remote central lock-in. There's just too much wrong with it for a car that's not really worth much, to be quite honest. It's not going to be a particularly desirable car once it's finished, so I am realizing now that it's not worth it, even for a daily. I'd rather just cut my losses to save all the time that I'm going to have to put into it and go and get another car. So unfortunately, there's not a happy ending to this. It's not going to be a success story as we originally hoped. So for now, we have to accept defeat and move on to the next one.